Okay, so there we go. We're on it. I don't know what I did to my eye, people, but boy, oh boy. I think I'm going to try some comfrey on it later on tonight, maybe. Just a tea comfrey. Like boil up some comfrey, let it seep, boil some water, put some comfrey in there, probably fresh. Let it seep, get a small cloth, dip it and soak it and just squeeze it out a little bit. I don't know what I'm going to do. Maybe I'll figure it out. Because I sure messed up my eye. But in the meantime, I got things to do. So you can see, this is the pork. Right? I'm leaving the fat in because, first of all, that's where a lot of calories are. Okay? That's where a lot of calories are. And that's where a lot of taste is. Right? So with that said, I'm going to degrease it a bit in the oven. Hopefully. I mean, even the beef itself, they gave me a cheaper cut, which had a fair amount of fat. So, but that's okay. Andre says, well, we're going to make shepherd pie, right, Netta? With the ground beef. I said, well, actually, that's a good idea. So hold on a minute. Okay, so that's the pork. That was $15. Right? And then I figure I gave probably my son about... Put it right there. So what we're going to do is we're going to do half and half. So this half is going to be beef, and then I'm going to mix it all around, right? Yeah. And then I'm going to mix it all around, and then whatever's left over will be in another tray by itself, beef, grounded. I'm not putting no seasoning, no salt, nothing, because in the jars, when it comes time, I'm only doing these size. Okay? That's enough for Andre and I upstairs. That's basically what I'm doing it for. So I'll put a half a teaspoon of salt when I'm ready to fill up the jars on the bottom of each jar. A half a teaspoon, right? So this is going in without any seasoning of any kind. Although the pork and the beef will be mixed up really good together. I'm going to cover them up because I want the liquid, right? And I don't know. I'm thinking to drain the liquid. I'm going to cook it for a while, right? Whatever. We got to cook off a little bit of that fat. Oh, I so love this little machine, man. You don't even know how happy I am to have it. And it's got other little parts to it too, right? So I've decided to keep it out. Normally I have it packed away. But I'm going to keep the container out. Because it has these things. You can grind up whatever you want. So making coleslaw, you shred your carrots, and your cabbage, or whatever, right? And I'm going to use this machine more, I'm telling you right now. Right? Because, I'm going to be cooking soon, right? So that, I love this little machine. It goes so fast. It cuts through the fat. Very seldom does it ever get clogged up. Like, seriously, you don't even know. So anyway, yeah. And then, I don't know, I'm debating whether I should put the liquid into a container and then put it in the fridge and let the grease come to the surface and then sliver off the grease, right? Because, to a degree, because this is a lot of fat in here. And then, of course, you're going to get a lot in the jars, right? But we'll see. Hold on. Because I want the juice. So before I can get the juice, I have to cook it for a while. And then the juice comes out. And then the grease comes out. But then you lose the juice, right? I don't want to lose the juice because I like to put... If I do it this way in the oven, then I can top everything off with liquid, right? Otherwise, if you put it in raw, it's a completely different product. So hold on a minute.
Okay.
Okay, you can see what's going on here. My hand is gooey, right? So this is the pork. This is the beef. Right? I'm pretty impressed. This is all from Canadian Superstore. Honestly, I like shopping there. I do. I'm enjoying myself a lot. And now that I have freedom to shop when I want, in terms of, you just mix them up together. So this would be good for Jamaican patties, pizza pockets, ravioli, whatever you want, right? You know, in terms of after you can it. So you can see what I'm going to do, and then we still got all that left. That's a lot to grind up for the other tray. Okay, just by beef by itself, so hold on. Okay, so adding the pork this way, half and half, it spreads your beef out too, right? Because the pork itself was only 15 bucks. Where the beef was 200 and what? 200 bucks? Right? So, you know, but I might do this again. I actually kind of like it. That's why I wanted to try it out, right? You know what I'm saying? And I'm not spicing it though, right? Like I said, I'm just going to do a half a teaspoon in each jar and just keep it pretty generic that way, right? I'm going to try and degrease it as best as I can, right? But I'm not going to sweat it either, you know. I'm really not. You know, it's okay. So now we've got that one. What I'm going to do, I don't know if I should cover it up with some tin foil. Start it on a low bake. Maybe I'll start it on a low bake. I'm not sure yet. You know, just cover it up with a tin, because you want to degrease it a bit, but you want the juices first to come out. You want to leach out the juices, capture the juices. But then, if you cook longer, right, then the grease starts to really come out. I mean, yeah, a little bit of grease comes out in the initial stages, but it's mostly juices. That's why I want to cover it with tin foil so they don't evaporate. Because those I put back into the jars and then I top off with water. Whereas if you do it raw, you have to put it in raw because it's a hit and miss as to how much water, because they release their own juices. But what I find though is, you know, you got a jar, it's, you know, raw meat in there. After it's all said and done, right, everything shrinks, and then your liquid, you know, might only be here. But if it's below half, if all you got is half liquid in the jar, then it's not necessarily safe in terms of, like, it's better if it's more than half, at least half, if not more, liquid for long-term storage, right? Doing it this way, I can add my liquid pretty much right up to the top, because you know, there's not going to be a lot of expansion because the meat is already shrunk. It's not, you know, it's not pushing out any more than what it's already pushed out, and you're just putting back in what came out, topping it off with a bit of water. And then this way you've got usually a bit more liquid in the jar compared to putting it into raw. Plus the texture changes. I noticed that. So I have to let this beautiful little machine, I'm so happy I have it. It's like from the 1960s. It's just wonderful. I'm going to let it just cool down for about 20 minutes just because I want to make sure I don't ruin it. I mean, it went through that no problem. No problem, people. It's chewing up through this, right? It's doing really good. Like, I you know how sometimes these things, they can't handle fat. It gets all gumped, and not this thing. This thing just goes through everything. So hold on. Okay, so I looked online there, Googled, right? You know, pressure canning fat, right? Because I don't know if you've seen that video with me doing that bacon, and then I did the bacon grease, and at one point, I did it several times, so it wasn't like I had an issue, except for that one time where all of a sudden my needle just started to go like this, and like I was already at the end of my pressure canning session. I was down to the last 6 minutes. Kind of freaked me out. Anyway, I googled, like, what, you know, can a pressure canner, can a jar like catch on fire in a pressure canner if you're canning too much fat, right? Okay, like, can, you know, what is that, flash point, right? And it's not so much that's the problem when you're pressure canning jars with meat, with fat. It's with the fat crawling up the jar and compromising the seal. Right? It's a hit and miss, you know. You're either going to be battling rust, eating away at your lid, or you're going to be, you know, battling with that grease crawling up the jar. So the colder it can be, the better off it is, because then it solidifies. Although when it's pressure canning, you know, it's pushing everything out. So some of that grease is coming out and getting up underneath the lid, and it can so-called compromise the lid. But for the most part, it's usually pretty good, right? Like, you know, so basically, I don't know. I'm just giving this a few minutes to cool down. I've been running it really hard. This is a great little machine. I don't know what the heck is going on with my eye. I just know that when I was in the bathtub, I was washing shit, and something went whoosh. And boy, oh boy, it really hurt, and it's been bugging me ever since. So anyway, my landlady, you know, she came and she went for heart surgery, people. They took arteries, I guess, from her legs and did 5 different things to her heart. And anyway, she went home, and she still has a blood clot in her lungs, and she has another one in her leg, and that's what they were doing with her heart. And you know, I told her, I said, you know, Mrs. Gill, I told you not to take that shot. Oh, you know, you got eye problems, and I'm like, yeah, well, that's glaucoma. That's completely something different. But whatever, like, you know, I don't know. So anyway, she's, you know, she's walking around and stuff, but she was really sick, people. Like, I don't know. That's just saying, right? I think about her every day. I'm kind of worried about her, right? Because, you know, I told her I really admire her spirit. You know, because she just trying to get back to normal, but clearly she's struggling, right? So she went to the blueberry bush, and she was happy there for a second. But, yeah. So anyway, I am going to degrease this, so hold on a second. Okay, so I just want to touch base on some info that people are starting to talk about on BitChute, I suppose, mainly. You know, we know how YouTube is, right, people? Got to be their bitch, otherwise you won't ever, ever, ever be successful. And you'll always be their bitch. Okay? Don't think I'm not noticing what's been going on with my channel since 2009. Anyway, besides that point, I guess there's a tick somewhere, mainly, I suppose, in Florida, maybe Texas, somewhere around out that way. But it's more than just there, right? Where if you get bit by it, it produces some sort of a protein, like a spike protein. Where have we heard that before, right? Where it actually makes you allergic to beef and other meat products. Now, some people are saying that when the virus came onto stage and everybody went into lockdown, and then, you know, those inoculations showed up, somewhere through the garden path, some of these allergies are resulting from that, like that sudden death syndrome. You're just walking around, you just suddenly die. Or whatever, okay? Now, I don't know about that. All I know is, I can only tell you what I know. Before Pastor Granny died, right? You know, she doing her food stuff and whatever, and I asked her if I could have, I did a video on it way back in the day. You know, pork fat to render, right? She told me, oh, I'll come by. Anyway, she showed up one day with these 2 big plastic bags full of fat. Okay. And some were beef, some were pork. Whatever. I did what I did with it. I rendered it all. Anyway, but as soon as I got into the bags, people, I started vibrating. Okay? got into the bag, started poking around to see what was in there, and I could feel it. I could feel that something was radiating off of the bat. It wasn't spoiled, but something had been done to it in terms of just even at working with this beef. Right? Even yesterday, my nose starts to run, right? And you can almost say I have an allergy to it. A lot of things, actually, right? Now, mind you, I'm 61, and I've done a lot of cruddy shit when it comes to molds and, and algae and sand, and just, especially in this place with the garage and the porch and the yard and just whatever. But at the end of the day, if our governments are coming out with because there's a lot of with the CRISPR technology going on right now, there's a lot of unscrupulous people doing very unscrupulous things. And we know that there's a fringe group, some people call it the American Democrats, whoever, whatever. They're trying to, I don't know, depopulate the planet. That's one thing. We're going into a global food shortage. It's going to go into global famine to some degree, right? Some countries are going to have it worse than other countries that we're already in. It's just not being reported on. Where is World Vision? They're like, I just seen a video with Sudan. Right, this is another thing about YouTube. Like, they don't give you they're so whitewashed, they're so lily white, they right, unless of course it's some sort of documentary that they can slap on their ads or something. But anyway, Google food shortages, you're going to come up with the same individuals that report the same shit over and over and over and over and over and over again. Not that it's shit, but there's not a lot to choose from when it comes to hearing other people and what they got it. Like, you don't see a raving mom coming on YouTube saying, oh my God, the cost of food is so high, and this is what I'm paying, and my kids are going hungry, and they're cutting off my SNAP benefits, and I can't afford the rent because that building over there is being torn down. That house over there is like full of fucking immigrants. That one over there is falling apart and nobody lives in it. It's all boarded up because it's being torn down. Oh my. No. YouTube doesn't put up those real live videos. Hell no. No, they direct their traffic to their favorite bitches, I suppose. Can't call them YouTubers. They're bitches. Direct them to their favorite bitches. And, shadow ban channels like mine, even after all this time, with that mindfuckery, psychological warfare, whatever. And, so anyway, I Google, food shortage 2023, and I get like a 2.5 minute video on Sudan with people literally starving. Okay? Up in the Chad area, not to mention wherever else they're flooding out as refugees. Where's World Vision? Where's the Red Cross? Where's UNICEF? All those places. You don't hear about them anymore. Have you noticed that? Oh, once in a blue moon you might get a little something. But at the end of the day, oh yeah, and they're talking about how the government bought all this wheat, but because of and this was like 2 months ago or something, with the rainy season coming within the next week or two, and if they couldn't transport out the wheat to where the people were within that small window of time before the rain came, that was it. They weren't going to get anything, people. So what was the follow-up on that? I bet you any money you've got tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people in Africa right now starving to death, if not dying. And you're not going to hear that on YouTube because it's too fucking real. As we've got our governments playing Frankenstein with CRISPR technology, trying to create a superhuman so that they can somehow figure that some of them are going to live forever, right? As they ban this and ban that and try and feed us, phase in bugs and manufactured meat from big vats and God knows what they're doing, right? And poisoning the food, people. Poisoning the food. If there's any truth to, like in the past, like Mrs. Gill, I told her, I said, don't do it, Mrs. Gill. Stop. Oh, and look at her now, people. It hasn't even been 3 years. 2 years. Ever since the first one she took, she got sick. She wasn't sick like that until that happened. And it's just getting worse and worse. And now she's riddled with blood clots. Yeah, okay. They're taking them out and they're still forming. I wonder why. As people are becoming allergic to beef en masse after they do this shit and they want to blame it on a freaking, what is it called? A tick. Yeah, okay. I'm just saying. Because they want to get rid of beef. They want to get rid of animal products and fats and proteins and the calories, right? They want to drive people mad and crazy with their bug protein, with those munchers. I'm just saying. And I'm like, well, what gives these people the right to even do any of this stuff with some of these things that they're doing? Like, they're nobodies. So what? They've got well, I wouldn't even say they got elected into being a politician, because some of these politicians, they're not even human. So, like, they're either a robot, a robotoid, a clone, or all of them in between. Okay? They switch them up, right? Either or, I'm like, okay, Judy, you're doing all this, right? But you're coming into contact with people that have done this to themselves and they're shedding, and it's been proven that unvaccinated people's blood is looking similar to vaccinated people, because the technology that's in these inoculations jumps from person to, it sheds. People are shedding. Anyway. So I'm like, okay, you're doing all this beef, and then you're already kind of allergic to something here. I wouldn't necessarily say I'm allergic to the beef, but I kind of wonder, right? And if that's so, why? After all these years, all of a sudden my nose is running like a freaking fountain when I'm freaking dealing with meat? A large, like a fair amount, right? Maybe a little piece, not so much, I don't know. But whenever I do stuff like this, oh man, lots of things now, people. Right? My son did this. What? He's going to get allergic to meat and he won't be able to eat it? Oh, God forbid. That hasn't happened yet, as far as I know. Because that's what people are saying. Some people. Right? The science is there. Apparently the science is there. But you can't post it up on YouTube, even if you wanted to. Because they take it down as saying it would be medical misinformation, when they can't even prove whatever they're saying is correct. Right? That's what I mean. You got to be YouTube's bitch in order to be, what? Successful? What a joke that is. That's a real fucking joke. Anyway, so what I've done, I'm not putting no water, none of this. This is all beef. You already seen the pork and the beef. I'm going to start them on low at 250, as if I was rendering lard, because I want the juices, right? So as the juices are coming, I'm going to be putting them in a separate pot. Oh my Lord. Okay? First the juices will come. The juices will leach out first. Scoop them up. And then, but you kind of need a little bit of liquid in there for it to, oh my Lord. You need a little bit of liquid in there in order to be able to degrease the grease. Okay. So I'm just gonna cook it on 250 for a while and see what we get, okay? Boy, I'll tell you, I sure love this little machine. Anyway, I guess I'll be back. So yeah, I forgot to show you. So this is the beef. There's a lot of it there. This is the beef and the pork. Okay? And then I've got a little bit left here, so I was going to put that in the fridge and maybe cook it up tomorrow. Okay, people, I just got a letter back from this lawyer that was looking over Amari's and SHAMAY's medical files. Get out of here, cat. Now, first thing, she said there was something missing, but whatever she had was enough for her to base her decision as a no-go, because she was looking for something in particular in regards to blood gases and the Argar score and that kind of crap, right? So basically what she said was that whatever injury Amari sustained would have had to occur, based on her opinion, before 34 weeks. Okay? She didn't give any specifics. Okay? She didn't suggest what could have done it. She just said that basically, I'm going to keep this video short, people. I will take the time to read that later on a different video. She basically said that in British Columbia, Canada, you pay to lose. Why are we not surprised with that, people? Isn't that what I've been doing? Pay, lose, 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 lose. 70 to 80% of cases get thrown out of court. They're dismissed by these crooked judges. I've shown you that through my videos. And if you can actually get up to that 20% where you're in court fighting against the medical system in general, it doesn't have to be Amari's case. Could be Uncle John's case. Could be Sierra's case. Could be SHAMAY's case. It could be my case. Whatever case, you're up against $2 billion slush fund and a whole bunch of bigwig lawyers that are hired on specifically to get things thrown out and dismissed. And then so that they can charge the taxpayers $200,000 minimum to do that. And then the loser has to pay $200,000. Plus, they have to pay back the $200,000 that the bigwig lawyers had to invest. So the lawyer that would be representing Amari, because she can't come in with a slam dunk, will be $400,000 in the hole. And she says she's not doing it. But I'm welcome to go get a second opinion. So, there you go. But we're not surprised. And now we know why it keeps getting thrown out. Fraser Health Authority, Province of British Columbia, Canada. We know that the banks are involved with illegal organ harvesting and laundering money and stealing money from old people. Even though shit's right in front of these judges' faces in terms of evidence, they're lying, they're falsifying their fucking records. And they're doing as the government is telling them to do. So there is no justice. No justice for Uncle John. No justice for Andre. No justice for his mother, Sierra. No justice for SHAMAY. No justice for Amari. There is no justice in the province of British Columbia, Canada. Absolutely none. What there is a $2 billion slush fund with a bunch of bigwig fucking lawyers committing heinous crimes against the general population so they can continue to do what they do. Snipe one here, snipe one there, through the medical system. Uncle John, medical system. Sierra, medical system. SHAMAY, medical system. Amari, medical system. Oh, I know, I just fell through the cracks, medical system. Right? Andre, medical system. Okay? And anything else related to the government. With that public union legion. Fuck the sector. It's a fucking legion. I told you. When I got Amari, and I was looking for birth injuries, people, there was no birth injury in the province, birth injury lawyer in the province of British Columbia, Canada. I couldn't find one. Every injury lawyer was all about car insurance accidents. And then magically, mysteriously, out of the blue, 6 years later, or 5 years later, or whatever it is, you find a lawyer that's willing to take the time to go through the medical records so they can be specific and tell you that, no, you know, the jitteriness stopped right here. It says in the medical records that it stopped, and therefore they let her go home. No, they didn't stop, people. When he got home, he still does that. Not as much as he used to, but it was always like that. Okay? It never stopped. Right there. That's a lie. But of course, it says in the medical file the jitteriness stopped. No, it did not. It said that his Argo was, his score, right? When he was born was fine. He was alert, you know, whatever. He suckled, whatever. So therefore, somehow, he had no brain damage from the birthing process. Okay, well, that's not true. Because he had brain damage. Right? And like, anyway, I'm not going to get into it too much right now. I sent her an email back saying, well, what would have caused it? Blunt force? Blunt trauma? You know, blunt force trauma? Right? Was it that ultrasound, that 3D ultrasound, where there's warnings that you shouldn't be taking them because it causes brain damage? SHAMAY had that at the end of July. That 3D ultrasound, it's not supposed to go past 30 minutes. I think hers went past 30 minutes. So is that what caused it? Because if it was in the early stages of her gestation, in terms of pregnancy, you know, people, he would have came out developmentally not looking right. Okay? Because cerebral palsy changes the way they look. You know, their ears change, just their body. Like, Amari appears like his back is broken. I've been saying it since ever. But of course, nobody ever talks about that, right? In other words, if he got the brain damage in the first 3 months of birth, you know, in terms of like gestation, in the first 3 months of pregnancy, if that brain damage occurred then, and he developed with it, he wouldn't look as normal as he did as in terms of a normal child outside of this shit. Right? And then for the first month, he was frowning all the time because he was in pain. Right? You know what I'm saying? If that brain damage occurred within the first 3 months because of quote-unquote cocaine, his deformities would have been, he would have came out with deformities. Okay, so this is something else. This is something else, people. The point is you're up against a $2 billion slush fund with a bunch of bigwig fucking lawyers that will do everything under their power to get it thrown out of court, where you end up owing them $200,000 just to shut you up. Okay, so it's a green light to injure whoever they want, when they want, and I think that's what my freaking videos have shown you all these years. Andre was injured, Sierra was injured, Uncle John was injured, SHAMAY was injured, Amari was injured, I've been injured. not to mention the rest of my family through that psychological warfare bullshit crap with their satanic fucking, I don't know what it is, people. Seriously. Seriously. You know, when Sierra was in jail, and that lawyer that was representing Sierra, this was right before they released her, and she was lured to her death and murdered and da-dee-da-da, snuffed out. It was recorded, I'm sure. They harvested something, probably adrenochrome, and who knows. They were laughing, though. They thought the whole thing was funny, with her family standing outside in the rain with that baby-faced 6'7" cop. Okay? Anyway, that judge asked me, you know, what to do. And I'm like, well, I don't know. She needs rehabilitation. Don't you have a place that you can send her and she gets out of jail? Because otherwise she's just going to be homeless. Oh, there's the Brady house. I said, the Brady house? Oh, I said, that sounds good. Yeah, maybe we should try that. No, people, the Brady house was the tomb. Because 4 days after they released her from fucking jail, from that point forward, she was lured to her death, okay? And then they covered it up with that 6'7" fucking baby-faced cop with that freaking corner that had motherboards in her hair and a complete white face, okay? And then jumping in her vehicle, coming up through the back on the side of the house and bolting out like a bat out of hell, probably with Sierra's body in the fucking trunk, okay? That's your healthcare system. There is no justice in British Columbia, Canada. That lawyer confirmed it. And just by what she wrote, and you're up against $2 billion, and 80% of things get thrown out of court, and even if you did, you're still not going to win, because, you know, you got now these big-ass lawyers coming in with their $2 billion fucking dollars. We're going to end up owing them $400,000. Sorry, we can't help you now, Miss Chorney. I feel like the whole thing was a fucking setup. Yeah, that's what I feel like. And of course, that's not what happened, but I feel like that, you know, because these devil worshippers, they like to tell you in advance what's going on, right? So that they absolve themselves of their own fucking evil, corrupt ways. They figure if they purge, they're free. And I guess their God won't punish them. Yeah, right. They don't have a God, people. They don't. So anyway, I don't think she can answer the questions that I asked her. No. Right? She's basing it on his blood gases, on his Argar score, because they put him down at 9, even though he was almost flipping off the table because they were cleaning him up, and he fucking flipped because there was something wrong with him. I have it on video. I let her know, but it's not going to matter because that wasn't the agenda. Who can go up against $2 billion in a corrupt fucking province with a bunch of fucking devil worshippers? Nobody. Absolutely nobody can do that. They harvest us like cattle, people. That's what they do. They harvest us like cattle. We're cattle to these things. That's exactly what we are. Fucking cattle. That's why they took it out of the Criminal Code of Canada. Satanism, practicing Satanism shit. Witchery and devil worshipping and all that shit. They made it legal. Yeah, right. Okay, I'm going to finish this video on this. Okay? Not going to get bent out of shape over what that lawyer had to say. Because at least she's bringing some clarity here. Okay? And, you know, she pointed out things that made sense, but at the same time, in my opinion, she was too quick to take the medical files for face value in terms of Amari didn't start jittering until later on in the day. No, that's not true. He came out like that, people. Okay? I have video of that. I sent her a little email saying I actually have video of, and he flipped himself, and the nurses say, oh, oh, and then they started laughing, and they thought it was funny after they were cleaning him up from the C-section. Okay, is it going to get me anywhere? No, obviously not. Okay? So, I'm just trying to wrap my head around this. I think where the biggest issue is with me, I mean, obviously the cerebral palsy is a big one, right? But it's the fact that the healthcare staff as a whole, since day one, have been accusing SHAMAY of cocaine, and this is the result, which is, in my opinion, a bunch of crock. Okay? And just to put the facts out there, right, as to why I have that opinion, everything that I've been reading about cerebral palsy in terms of cause and effect and why and how it happens and how it could happen and blah blah and what the different variables, no, there's no mention of fucking cocaine in through any of these articles or little snippets or whatever it is that I'm reading. Okay? About 4 children out of every 1,000 children are born with cerebral palsy, with the majority of them, I guess, developing it in vitro while in the stomach for whatever reason. Okay? One of the causes could be blunt force trauma. In other words, women with 1- and 2-year-old toddlers, right, while pregnant with a big belly, if the 2-year-old kicks the belly, and it just happens to kick the baby in the belly at the right spot at the right time in development, where the head is, boom, gets the brunt of the kick from the toddler, I guess that's enough to cause cerebral palsy. There's been a couple of 2-3 studies on that, and people are leaning towards that direction, that it's more probable to happen if you have a 1- or 2-year-old versus a 4- or 5-year-old, because you're having to chase toddlers, pick them up, and they're kicking and screaming, and right, and if they boot mom in the gut, yeah, it could happen. There was a woman in I don't know, some African country. I guess she was doing something with an axe with her big belly, accidentally whacked her belly with the handle of the axe, and the child went into labor, you know, within the week or whatever it was, went and gave birth, and the child had one damaged eye where that eye had to be replaced, and developed retardation from it, and the whole 9 yards. And it was purely an accident, and the mother did it to herself while out in the fields working with an axe, probably collecting wood. Right? Infections could be one reason. Now, I don't ever recall SHAMAY having an infection. However, at the time of her pregnancy, that's when we were having a big problem with that bathroom downstairs, and it wasn't getting fixed correctly. And then the toilet upstairs at the seam of whatever eroded away, and it was leaking when you flushed the toilet. We didn't even know this for the longest time until it started leaching through the ceiling of the bathroom, you know, like the ceiling. My toilet's here, here's the ceiling, and here's the shower. Right? It got to the point where I had to take, it started leaking through the fucking ceiling. It was disgusting. And it was like, for 2 months, it wasn't getting fixed, people. For 2 fucking months. I was telling you, like, I ended up putting a plastic bag, and I covered it up, right? Stopped using the toilet up here and everything, because it was gross, right? Told Shamay, you need to take a shower up here. Like, you can't be taking showers downstairs with that shit going on. And it took months to get that fixed, people. And even then, everything had to be ripped out from underneath, and new drywall had to be put up. And, you know, maybe she came into contact with some nasty bacteria from that. Who knows? That's an alternative. Another alternative, too much stress. Julian was always fighting with her. Always, 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 always fucking fighting with her. Okay? That, apparently, from what I'm reading, right? Because, you know, I'm looking for clues, right? I'm on a hunt. I want to know what happened, right? It's all speculative, though, you see. That's the thing. It's speculative. Right? Everybody's saying it's speculative. Unless, of course, you can pinpoint it to the woman with the axe who bonked herself on her gut when she was out chopping wood for her fire to cook some food. Right? Or the toddler booted Mummy in the tummy when, you know, Mummy went to grab the baby, and the baby was, you know, and walked, and Mother didn't stop to think about it, just carried on and put baby to bed and didn't stop to think about it, when in fact maybe that little toddler foot caused some serious damage in the baby in the gut to create a cerebral palsy. Okay, I'm just giving you the scenarios I've been reading here. All right? Heaving, excessive heaving, you know, throwing up, right? Shamay was heaving a lot with, you know, Amari, right? Especially in the first trimester, but that wouldn't, it's not the first trimester that's usually the problem, because the children are so very well insulated because they're so tiny. But when they're getting bigger and their heads are like pushing up against, you know, the stomach, right, and you can feel, right, then they're more susceptible to injury from blunt force trauma, even if it's from a 2-year-old having a tantrum and kicks Mummy in the gut. Okay? So excessive heaving could be one. It's from 34 weeks and under, right? This is what this lawyer said. Whatever happened to Amari happened before 34 weeks, based on her opinion. Based on her opinion, from her experience, from reading medical files. Even though she's not, even though there's something missing in there, and the Surrey Memorial Hospital has been known to falsified records. Okay? I'm just saying. So, anyway, I'm trying to be diplomatic about this, people, because I'm the one that lives in the real world and has to deal with Amari, okay? And I don't want to, you know, cry over spilt milk, but then I don't appreciate going to the hospital and having doctors whisper, oh, well, why is Amari, oh. You know, shut up. Shut up. You're supposed to be a fucking professional. There's multiple reasons why he could have this cerebral palsy, okay? Multiple. Why don't you suggest one of those other scenarios that is more feasible, right? Versus trying to do that smear campaign. They're doing the smear campaign, people, because of what they did to Shamay's body. That's why. They have to discredit Shamay's character in order to steer people away from noticing or paying attention to what they did to her body, her dead body, that should have stayed in the house, and the coroner should have came, did their investigation, and they should have arrested Julian for suspecting of murder. That's what they should have done. But there's illegal organ harvesting out here, people, and that's why they always character assassinate her. And they will continue to do that, I'm sure. And she'll never get justice, because this lawyer pointed out to me that the healthcare system has a slush fund of about $2 billion it's $2 billion slush fund that they have to protect unscrupulous, devil-worshipping, fucking corrupt doctors. Well, ghouls that call themselves doctors. Okay. It only takes one bad doctor to spoil the whole bloody barrel of apples, okay, of doctors. And there's more than one rotten apple in that barrel of doctors, okay? But they got $2 billion and their own legal beagle team to protect them as they commit heinous crimes against women like SHAMAY and Uncle John and Sierra. I guess we can't include Amari anymore because it's all speculative. Oh yeah, so it also could be he got some of the DNA from his father's side of the family in terms of Julian's mother is cross-eyed. Literally. She's cross-eyed, people. Julian's sister has an eye that goes wing over there while the other one looks over there. Okay? I'm just saying. So there's something wrong with them in their own DNA. And apparently you can get cerebral palsy through DNA. Maybe not so much through, see, chromosome, Down syndrome, those kind of things. That's different than a genetic inheritance through DNA. And being that on his father's side, everybody's got eye problems, and Amari comes out with eye problems, maybe there's a strand of DNA on their side of the family where cerebral palsy is, you know, they're more susceptible to it through, you know, genetics, passing it down the family, you know, skips a few years, like a few generations. You might not see it for another 30 or 40 years, but it will pop up again because it's somewhere in the fucking DNA. And being that they're cross-eyed and one over there and the other one is over there, and like, who knows, right? I'm just saying. Also, too, black children, boys, tend to get it more than girls or white people. So that's another strike against Amari. It could be that, right? Right? Being that it had nothing to do with the doctor, in the lawyer's opinion, based on what she read, in terms of his R-Agar score, because they gave him a 9, because he came out moving around, and no, he didn't come out moving around, he came out ready to fucking fly off the fucking table as they were cleaning him up. And they thought it was funny. So I guess they gave him a 9 for that, because he was so frisky. Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay. That's normal, right? No, that's not normal. Babies don't, right? And because it said in the medical files that the jitteriness stopped, so therefore they released her 3 days after the fact and sent them home with no concerns. No, the jitteriness never stopped. You see, that's the thing. It never stopped. Okay, they just wanted to get rid of the problem because they knew there was a problem and they didn't want to follow up on it. That in itself is malpractice because they could have followed up on it, people, and they didn't. They let it slide because there was bigger plans for my daughter because it was already in the fucking making that her organs were like accounted for. It was just a matter of how they were going to get them. And that's why they're so adamant to do their smear campaign. Anytime I come into contact with those kind of individuals. Okay? I'm just saying. There's multiple reasons why they're discovering why. They're saying only 10% of births, right, result in cerebral palsy. The other 90% is in vitro for whatever reason. Could be that DNA strand that jumped a few generations and people forgot that it's in the family line. Right? Or, you know, that eye just doing what it wants, right? Isn't that what Tamika's eye does? It just kind of veers off and does what it wants. Well, obviously she got that from the mother. And the mother got it from somebody else. And Amari kind of got it. Okay, I'm just saying. Right? Anyway, let's just read this. What causes cerebral palsy during pregnancy? Cerebral palsy is usually caused by a problem that affects the development of the baby's brain while it's growing in the womb. These include damage to the part of the brain called white matter, possibly as a result of reduced blood or oxygen supply. This is known as, and then it's pervy something particular, something leukemia something, and that's what the lawyer said Amari had. It developed in his brain in vitro. For whatever reason. Was it because SHAMAY was arguing with Julian nonstop, all the time, constantly, except on the good days when they weren't arguing? Was it because she was heaving? Huh? What do you think it was? Right? Was it because maybe she took a shower and came into some nasty bacteria as that fucking shit was not being repaired, and, you know, and what, right? Who knows? She got into an argument one time with Tisha. They had a little scuffle, right? Was that it? Right? Maybe she fell down the fucking stairs. Who knows? Maybe Julian did something. I wouldn't be surprised. He was threatening all kinds of crazy crap. We know what he did. He was leading up to it, right? Smashing TVs, flipping over fucking couches, punching holes in walls, busting up the door, doing all kinds of crazy crap, shooting out my window, right? We don't know. We don't know, people. I'm just saying. Can trauma during pregnancy cause cerebral palsy? The researchers found that unintentional injuries in the mother while pregnant increase the risk of a child having cerebral palsy by 33%. That's a mother chasing after her 2-year-old, grabs the 2-year-old, it's kicking and slamming in his arms, and boots mom in the stomach, big belly, puts the kid to bed, doesn't stop to think about it, carries on, ends up giving birth a month or 2 months later, and everything seems to be fine until the signs of cerebral palsy develop. Right? It's that simple. So they say. Where does it say Coke? It doesn't. The risk increases with more severe injuries or multiple injuries. The risk also goes up when women give birth shortly after suffering an injury. SHAMAY was 2 weeks early. When stress appears later in pregnancy, it could lead to alterations in character development and a lower physicomotor development. Furthermore, it could cause brain changes similar to those observed in cerebral palsy. Anyway, injuries during pregnancy increase the risk of cerebral palsy. Apparently they can't detect it through ultrasounds and stuff like that. There is that ultrasound, that 3D ultrasound. I told her not to have it. She did it anyway. It was more than 30 minutes, I'm sure. It's recommended to not go past 30 minutes, but for whatever reason, it appears they went more than 30 minutes. But of course, nobody's acknowledging that. Right? So it could have been that did it. Yeah. Could have been, people. Could have been a number of things that did it. So why these doctors at the Surrey Memorial Hospital and these paramedics that cruise to my fucking house want to accuse SHAMAY of something when they themselves don't know from... Right? It's all speculative. That lawyer was looking for something specific. She couldn't find it, so therefore she can't take on a $2 billion corrupt organization that just wants to protect nefarious activity on multiple levels within the healthcare system. Okay? It's not just Amari who's injured here. Uncle John was severely injured and had his life taken away from him while he was completely robbed. Right? Sierra was tortured for 8 years in and out of the Surrey Memorial Hospital. Right? Treated like garbage. Okay? As they exploited her out on the streets only to lure her to her death. Alright? And then the shenanigans after that fact. Right? We know what they did to SHAMAY for 9 days on that hospital bed. Dead as a doornail. Right? And we know what they did before they put her on that hospital bed. And we know what they did downstairs when they should have called an investigation and they didn't. Alright? And we know what they're doing with me. Now I know why my lawyer, my family doctor tells me to take him to court. Because he knows that he's got $2 billion in his back pocket and a whole bunch of fucking crafty lawyers ready to go for the kill for his behalf. And we shouldn't be surprised because he's from Ukraine. Isn't that what's happening with everybody giving Ukraine all this money to do what? Cause war? For what? To be racists? To be racist, people. Okay? I'm just saying. I know. I have family that's Ukrainian. I know how racist they are. But, you know, federal government, Canada and United States, just give, money. As the people in the countries are starting to starve and are being pushed out onto the streets so their organs can be harvested. So those nasty lawyers can protect the government as they continue to do it. In terms of these crooked doctors and their partners in crime. Yeah. So, I take it with a grain of salt because I know for a fact that they falsify medical records because they falsified mine when I gave birth to Tisha. I have the video of Amari almost off the table when they were cleaning him up after they took out him from SHAMAY's womb. Okay? And they just played it off and tried to blame her for it. And they didn't follow up on it. And then the clinic was negligent around it in terms of the doctor should have known way sooner than we figured it out that something was wrong. In terms of baby floppy syndrome, that's what they get paid for, but they ignored it. They let it ride, right? Because they knew they had bigger fish to fry, right? SHAMAY was the big fish. Amari was just the little fish. But there is no justice in British Columbia, Canada. Clearly, not when you're up against $2 billion and a bunch of crooked fucking lawyers. Not to mention a crooked government. Okay? Amari will never get no justice. SHAMAY will never get no justice. Sierra will never get no justice. Uncle John will never get no justice. I and the rest of my family will never get no justice. Because the government took $2 billion and gave it to a handful of lawyers to make sure that even if it got past these crooked judges, you only got 20% chance of getting past these crooked judges where you can actually go in front and have a trial. You've got the crooked judges or the crooked lawyers coming in with their $2 billion. Will fight you tooth and nail to make sure that you don't get justice. That's what that lawyer told me. And they'll make you pay $400,000 to do it. So, being that it's like that, well, I don't necessarily agree with the lawyer's opinion, people. I don't. It's too convenient as to what happened to Amari. And if you want to take it there, then let's blame it on the father's side with those cross-eyed, I don't know what they are, with one like this, looking like this, and the other one's got one eye going like this with that one going over there, like, you know, like she looked in this way, but this one's going like that, while the mother herself is cross-eyed. Like, come on, that's DNA shit. Okay? I read in here. It's possible. It's possible that Amari inherited this from his father's side. And because he was black, and Amari happens to be a boy, puts him at even a higher risk. Drag out the pregnancy for 5 days. Who knows? So, I will read what that lawyer wrote. I don't know. I put everything in the fridge. I'm degreasing that juice before I use it. So I put the meat in the fridge. I put the juices in the fridge. Everything's in the fridge. So tomorrow, I will can it tomorrow after I degrease the juice. And then at some point in the next few days or whenever, I'll sit down and I'll read what this lawyer wrote. I mean, I understand why she did it based on what she had to say. But at the end of the day, I still think there was malpractice in there because just with the fact of the smear campaign right from the get-go, and they ignored the jitteriness, and then they proceeded to ignore it in the clinic when she take the baby in for follow-up, and then she just suddenly died, and it was one big cover-up, to which the lawyer didn't say not one thing about it, not one thing, other than, I'm sorry for the tragedy. And being that she knows how to read medical files, just like my family doctor said, it says it right there in the medical files that she was dead before she left the house. So if that is the case, why are they taking a dead body to a hospital and then hooking it up on a bed for 9 days? Because they took the body to the hospital, because they had booked a time to take out the organs, put them into some who knows what. And in order to cover it up, they had to put her on a bed to make it look like she was alive for at least a little while before they could say, oops, she was brain dead, now we have to unplug it. No, she was embalmed the minute I walked into that room, people. And of course the lawyer doesn't say anything about that because it was just all about Amari. But Amari is a victim equal, if not more. I'm serious. To this whole shenanigan. Simply because there's $2 billion to slam into your face, no matter what the crime is when it comes to the healthcare system. No matter what it is, you're up against $2 billion, poof, in your face, and you'll never get past go.